There we go. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. I'm going to introduce Claire Reynolds, is an attorney who's lived here since 2007, and that's more than anywhere else that she has lived. So, Claire, would you care to give us talk to us for about 10 minutes, please?
I will I will probably be on for less than 10 minutes just because I like brevity. Um, so my name is Claire Reynolds, and I am running for US Congress in District 11. I am a mother. I have four kids. I've got a 15-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 22-year-old. One in high school, two in college, the other one off the payroll for the time being. uh, and they and two of them went through the Round Rock School District. The other two went through Manor ISD. Um, I am also an attorney. Sorry, my phone was dinging. I'm also an attorney, and I've been an attorney for about 24 years. I'm licensed in Texas and in California. And the last 12 years, I spent working at the State Bar of Texas in the department responsible for prosecuting attorney discipline. So if an attorney misbehaved, um, we tried to suspend their license or disbar them. And I learned there that I'm okay with people not liking me and with making people unhappy, even when they're powerful. Um, so, one story that I feel is kind of relevant about why I am running. Um, I would say last year, when I was working at the bar, um, the American Bar Association has an annual Law Day of Action where they try to get a bunch of judges and lawyers to get together and talk about how important it is to follow the rule of law and how important it is for everybody to follow the rule of law. Well, the state bar decided that they were not going to have that. They were not going to participate because the state bar is overseen by the Texas Supreme Court, and the Texas Supreme Court is filled with um, very, very right wing Trump fans. Um, and they knew that this particular ABA law day was focusing on the fact that the president and his administration were not following the rule of law. So that really made me mad. And I decided I was going to do it on my own. So I took my own time off and I organized a law day of action downtown at the federal courthouse. We had a bunch of people there, we had some media, and it was really great. It was a success. I got in the local news, the lawyer newspaper, um, and word got back to the higher ups at the bar, and they brought me in, and they were, very nice about it. But they said, "Look, we need you. You can't do that again." And my response to that was, "The hell I won't. I'm absolutely doing it again." uh, and then shortly thereafter, I ended up quitting the bar and filing to run in this for this office. So, I think that what that says about me is that I am willing to stand up for what is right, for what I believe is right, even if it comes at my own personal risk. I do have two kids in college, so quitting that job was difficult and it was a sacrifice. We are having to live a much different life than we did a year ago. But that sacrifice is nothing compared to the kind of sacrifices that people are making every day on behalf of our country, like in Minnesota, for example. So because I had to quit my job and run for office, that means I'll be a full-time candidate. I will have every minute available um, to campaign all over this big giant district that has 20 uh, 20 counties, 20 large counties. I will attend every event where they will let me in. Um, I will speak with every uh, new voter out there that maybe is not feeling connected to the Democratic Party. And I will be researching and studying every possible subject that might come up and how August Pfluger might respond to it. It's very important to me that if I'm the candidate going up against him, that I am well prepared to debate with him because I think he'll resist debates at first, but I think eventually he's going to have to do it. Otherwise, he's just going to look really bad. Um, so the third reason why I am putting myself forth as a candidate is what I like to call the Chumbawamba reason. And that is when I get knocked down, I get up again. Uh, I I had I've had a few bad nights on the campaign trail, in the last few months, and I will have more. I will make mistakes, but what I do is I think about it, I figure out what I did wrong, and then I bust my ass to make sure I don't make that same mistake again, so that I can go out and be better than I ever was before. Because it's not about me. I don't what everything that's going on. I don't have the luxury of beating myself up or of getting beat down. So it's not about me. It's about you guys. And so for that, that is what keeps me going when I don't feel like going anymore. Um, and then I'd really just like to close it out by saying that I truly, truly believe that we can win this election. When I filed to run, I really was filing to run thinking it would be a lost cause. And then I got a better look at the numbers, and I realized that I think that that's maybe not the case. And especially if you look at what happened with Taylor Rumet and some other elections, we really do have a shot here at winning this. So what it's going to take is somebody that can galvanize the true blue Democrats. We got to find all those people and get them to not just vote, but to volunteer to get out the vote. We need somebody who can build a coalition. Um, you know, we don't want to just rely on it being Democrats alone. We are going to need to work with uh, independents and with moderate Republicans. And I have already developed pretty good relationships. There are going to be two independent uh, candidates in the general. I've actually developed halfway decent relationships with both of them. And I've spoken with a lot of independent voters who maybe are people that I wouldn't normally find myself on the same side of. Um, but but I am now because because the greater problem is protecting our democracy and our civil liberties. And those are things that libertarians and independents can agree with us on. Um, the bigger issues that they might disagree with us on, those are, that's that's tomorrow's Claire's problem. That's for later. That's for wait until then. Wait until we've solved the current very, very pressing issues. So I am a candidate who is organized. I have the ability to develop a solid campaign plan and figure out what needs to be done. I have the ability to raise money, and it's going to take a lot of money because August Pfluger has like 2.8 million cash on hand. And that's with, that's just what he had. He hasn't even had to ask for money hardly because he's had no opponent the last couple of. Uh,
10-second warning.
I did go that. All right,
You
and also I've got the ethos of the hell I won't.
Thank you, Claire.
I love that
was,
playoff music is great.
That's really good.
About that.
Thank you very much. Say everybody out there, please don't forget to pick your questions. We were at 20 for a while. Now I see we're at 21 responses, and there's more than 30 of us out there. So please do that. Thank you again, Claire. That's great. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Pedro Pete Ruiz. Did I say that name wrong? I'm sure I did, Pete. Pete is a Marine Corps vet and a mental health counselor. So, everyone, let's hear from Mr. Pedro Pete Ruiz. Pete?
Let's get him spotlighted.
It looked like he might have frozen because he was drinking that water for an awful long time.
Oh, no. There he is.
There he goes.
I'm sorry, something happened on my end. I lost everyone.
You're back now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, is it my time?
It is your turn. 10 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah.
Sorry. My name is Pedro Pete Ruiz, and I'm running for Congress in the 11th District of Texas. A little bit about me. I was born in Stanton, but I've lived most of my life in Midland. I was in Marines for 8 years. I'm a veteran. I'm a Marine. I have been married to my wife. I have 3 kids, a 40-year-old daughter, a 35-year-old daughter, and a 6-year-old son. And I tell everybody because I still got him. It's kind of a joke there. I am very serious about this race. My community efforts have started when I was really young. I was 13 and I was already coaching Little League baseball. Believe it or not, it's true. By the time I was 18, I had taken the team from Eastern Little League all the way up to the state tournament. Let me regress a little bit. I'm sorry. A little nervous. I was raised in the field. My father decided when we came back from Mexico, because my dad was deported, and we lived there a couple of years till we got a state. And when we came back to the United States, we worked the field all up and down the western part of the United States. Wherever there was something to pick, that's where we were. So we've been in the field until I was 12 years old, working everything. My dad was murdered when I was 12 years old.
Oh.
Yes, sir. And then my mom decided we had to come back to Texas. We were living in Twin Falls, Idaho at the time. And I always say, the place where Eagle Knievel tried to jump Smith River Canyon, that's where we lived at that time. And my dad, he got murdered in July of that year. We moved back to Texas. And I think one of the things that my mom did to try to help us, that I think hurt us, was she stopped speaking to us in Spanish once we moved to Texas. Because she grew up in a very racist era where they were sent to school in cattle cars. And so she told us that from now on, we're not going to speak much Spanish because she didn't want us to have an accent, which would then in return cause us not to get to the best schools or have people listen to us and make a difference. Now, my mom came into Texas and she started working 2 or 3 jobs to support the family. When I was 18, she passed away. She went to the hospital to get a biopsy, and they gave her too much anesthesia and killed her. One of the things I remember my mom telling me the night before she died was that tomorrow this is what I want you to do. I don't want you or your brother go to UTEP. I was going to UTEP to try to play football. And I want you guys to stay home and raise the family, which was my 2 little brothers and 2 little sisters. I think my younger sister online watching. So we did that. We helped each other. We raised each other. I think we did a pretty good job. My brother owned a flight company. My sister and her ex-husband started a surgical center in San Diego is very successful. She recently returned to Texas where she belongs. She'll tell you that herself. My brother, my oldest brother, who's a big Trumper, worked in media for 40 years, but he is supportive. One of the things I did, it was to be part of the community. I was taught so by my grandfather, Pedro. Him and my grandmother did so much for the community on the east side of Midland. They had a restaurant, and if anybody was hungry, they would feed them for free. He established a whole bunch of organizations like Casa de Amigos. He helped with that. He owned a lot of land here, and he donated some of that land as well. My grandfather taught me that a man got to keep his word. He's got to keep his moral boundaries, and he must keep his priorities straight. Never do anything that's not you. And to this day, I carry that. I won't tell you a lie to get elected. I just won't. Those cross my boundaries. I won't pander to people to get my vote. I just won't do it. That's not who I am. I'm a Marine. If I give my word, that you can stand by that. Unlike our vice president, who is a Marine, won't do. I honor that Constitution to this day, and I will follow it to this day. I'm very personable. A lot of people like me because they know who I am. Recently, I found out that basically I was an establishment Democrat who's pro-ICE. That's a lie, and I'll call it what it is. It's a lie. And to come to find out, it was some Democrats. We got to stop that. We absolutely have to stop that. We want to unite so we can get things done. If we fracture the party, we'll keep losing elections. Okay? Now, Claire and I have decided that whoever wins will get the 100% support. That I promise. If I win, I know she'll give me my support. And if she wins, I will give my 100% support. I've always been involved in the community. When I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, we worked on the east side and the south side. I formed a club there called the Keystone Club. Those kids were part of a community-based action committee. So basically, like on Wednesdays, we would go to senior citizens' home, retirement centers, and have them read to us. And they would also visit with those people because they were so lonely. And I remember one time we were going to the senior citizen home, and out comes this little old man running away from the facility. He was running, we're looking at him running across the street. He turns around and sees the blue van. He stops and he goes, "I'll be right back." And he goes right back in because he knows that the kids are going to be there for him. Part of that club, we won for 5 straight years. The Bagathon was a community effort, citywide community effort to clean up South Side and East Side. Well, those kids for 5 straight years won that award. And we're talking cities like East, West, North, and South. 5 straight years. So as part of that, we won what they are, the Project of the Year for the Southwest part of the United States. And guess what the reward was? To go to Arkansas and meet the governor, who was the future president of the United States, Bill Clinton. So these kids from the South Side that no one thought they would be successful did that. By the way, a lot of those kids are now very successful principals, teachers, AI people. They just, they've been very successful. And I tell you that story because I want you to know that I can form coalitions and I can put people in place to make things happen. So here was a bunch of kids from the South Side, East Side, minorities who no one had respect for, did something that had never been done before in Midland. I'm also a uniter. I'm a mental health therapist. One of my jobs is to make sure that I help people. Today, for instance, I just had eye surgery yesterday to reattach my lens in my left eye. So this morning I was in Lubbock and I was sitting there waiting, and there were 2 gentlemen, one Hispanic and one Anglo, and they were both Republicans. And they asked me, why did I need to repair my eye? And I said, well, I'm running for Congress and I have double vision. I can't have that. They asked me, oh, really? What are you running from? What area? District 11, Midland, Odessa. I told them, are you Democrats? Yep, I sure am. They both told me they were Republicans who voted for Trump. After talking to them, they said this to me. One of the men said, I want your card. I want to donate. Can't vote for you, but I am sure going to do it. The other gentleman was a farmer. He said, I like your idea because we spoke about immigration. One of the things that they told me is they didn't like what was happening. Even though they voted for Trump, they hated it. The farmer told me that one of the reasons he hated it was because his people were being deported for no reason whatsoever. That's one of the promises I make is I'm going to try my best to make sure that we cover and hold those people accountable for what they've done, including the president. I was asked on a podcast if I would impeach Trump. My question was kind of complicated. I said, look, we're going to take the House, positive about that. And I hope we take the Senate. But if we take the Senate, is there going to be 67 votes there? If there is, I'll impeach Trump. Vance comes on in. He's going to do something in no time. We'll then impeach Vance, and our next president will be Hakeem Jeffries. I have confidence.
10-second warning.
Okay. So, I went so quick. At least I am here to help people unite. Look, we need to take care of the folks. We need to take care of the folks in the suits. We will take care of the folks in the booth.
Okay. Thank you, Pete, very much. Appreciate it a lot. Thanks a lot. And so now we're going to switch gears over to Congressional District 31, which might be slightly less gerrymandered than District 11, but we're going to hear from Justin Early and Stuart Whitlow. Justin is an Army vet and a cybersecurity professional. Justin, give us your 10-minute opening remarks, please, sir.
Thank you very much for the ability to be here and to speak with you guys today. As Mike had stated, I'm an Army vet. I served in the Army for a good number of years. I joined the Army out of Texas 31, where the area is now. Actually, specifically out of Leander. That's where I graduated high school. And I went to elementary school in Bell County. When I joined the Army, I joined as a paratrooper, and I served at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the 82nd Airborne Division, and also served in the Pentagon just 11 days after 9/11. I already had those orders, so it wasn't like they sent me there. I was already going, but just made it all more real and just solidified what I was going to do there. I had friends who I had worked with who lost very important friends to them, and the room that we were supposed to be in got hit. It was in the C ring. And I say that all this stuff because the amount of understanding and care that went into taking care of our country from that moment on, I feel like I was there at ground zero. I feel like I was there to serve. I like to tell people that when I served in the Pentagon, I used to have what we called apple pie days. And these are days that you felt like you did such great service for your country, but you couldn't tell anybody about it because it was top secret, it was classified. So all you could do was go home and eat some apple pie. And so understanding where we are today in our country, let me back up. Let me tell you guys this. Indivisible is a phenomenal group. I don't need to convince you to vote for a Democrat. I don't need to convince you that this is the resistance. I don't need to teach you or tell you how important these times are right now because you know it. This is the resistance. And so what I want to do here is talk to you about how we can actually move it and change it forward. So a lot of people ask me, why am I running? And every day, it's getting harder and harder to answer that question because I feel like every day is a new reason would make me run. But specifically, I hit my dark funk. My heart was hurt when Donald Trump was elected to a second term because I have a deep faith in humanity. I'm a serial optimist. I did not think this was going to happen to us twice. And while that hit me and hurt me hard, I got caught in my feels. I didn't know what to do. And then here comes Elon Musk and here comes the Doge cuts. And I don't know if you guys know much about Black history. This is Black History Month. One of the great things that happened in this country was the ability for the federal government to hire African Americans. And that specific passage of those programs allowed so many people to change their socioeconomic status, and my family included, my aunts, my uncles. I have such a deep government service family, and to see the Doge cuts go through and target the same exact people or programs that help my family grow, it astounded me. But also, my parents receive over 80% of their income from the federal government because they earn those benefits. And so when they talk about people like their bargaining chips or like their numbers in the bottom or their bottom line numbers, it deeply affected me. And as a cybersecurity expert, I understand how a lot of these tech companies, tech bros work because they'll fire a huge swath of people in November, December in order to make their books look great at the end of the year, and then
Yep.
hire back more people, at the end of at the beginning of the next year. Because if you remove something on one side of the equation, you can actually you don't care what happens on the other side of the equation. But in the federal government, in a service organization, you absolutely have to care on both sides of the equation. If you fire somebody on this side, that means you're affecting services, you're affecting programs, and you're affecting human beings. And these people coming in here and making these decisions, I understand systems, I understand economies, I understand how we should do these things. And I said, man, how are we expecting anything to change if we keep doing the same thing? We need to do something different. And this is my doing something different. I decided to stand up and say, I will use every blessing, every opportunity, and every, means that I have to communicate with people, to reach people, and to talk to people. Claire spoke about the Chumbawamba, reason you get knocked down and you're back up again. I loved it. I thought it was a great analogy, because this is not politics as usual, guys. And I'm tired of these, games that people are playing. Pedro talked about Democrats coming together because we need to. I've communicated with everybody who is on this, call, Pedro, Claire, and Stuart, because this is important. The point is that we need to get Democrats elected. And we want strong Democrats to go up against these Republicans because every move that they make, they will change the rules. So we have to be able to be better than those rules. We have to go even higher than that. So the negative campaign stuff, it's silly to me that people will do those things. It shows weakness of party. It shows weakness of unity. And the Republicans are already talking about how the Democrats can't get along. They love that kind of stuff. So I appreciate your comments on that, Claire, because I understand that that's, it happens. And same with you, Pedro. These are things that people are talking about. But we need to have a united party because if the resistance is going to stand, we need to work together to make it happen. Stuart and I had an opportunity. We actually were interviewed by the Austin American-Statesman. It happens to all the candidates there for their endorsement process. And they asked me, they said, what do you think is going to take to win this district? And I think it's a phenomenal question because if we look back on time, people have been running for this and they've not been successful. And when I first started this run, I said, hey, this is a 2 to 3 cycle run. Get out there, talk to people, get my name out there. But then the redistricting happened, the mid-decade redistricting, and that put clean back into play. And now there's a lot of Black and brown communities that have been historically ignored. And John Carter likes to say, I did so much for the military and I did a lot of things. And there are things that he has done, but I say that if you truly support the troops, you would support the community around the troops. And that's exactly the people that we're talking about who are now back in this district. So the answer to the question I gave the Austin American-Statesman was we needed 3 things. We needed the map, the math, and the motivation. And I'm going to change that to mobilization because I'll explain in a minute. So the map, I just talked about it. The Republicans have given us the map. Though they have gerrymandered this area in order to win back power and to keep power in their area, I think they stretch too far. I think with Democrats like Claire and Pedro, they can win that district away from August Pfluger. I think with Democrats all up and down the ballot that I've met on this campaign trail, I think they have the motivation and the opportunity to win this. So that's the map. The math is there because like we've always said, and a lot of people know that Texas is not a red state. It's a non-voting state. And so in order to us to get out there and get people to vote, we have to do the motivation, right? But because I told you, we're have to flip that to mobilization because you're already motivated. You have this meeting right now. You know what it means to stand up for what's right. Indivisible would not be a group today if you weren't already motivated. So I'm going to switch it to mobilization because I believe what it takes to actually win this district is to have a group, an army of volunteers, such as I already have. Whenever you have an opportunity to run, you've got 2 ways to get yourself on the ballot. You can go and you can pay the money to the state, which I thought was silly, or you can go out and collect signatures. And the minimum number of signatures you have is 500 signatures. We actually ended up collecting just over 900 signatures. It was such a great success that some people who weren't in the district were signing, and it was like, thank you, but Thank you. You know, I didn't know how to say. So that's pretty much there. That's just where people are motivated. That's what's happening with people. They want to get on board. Those same people were then transitioned from signing a document to say yes, put Justin Early on the ballot, to being volunteers. And those volunteers have been block walking, they've been phone banking for us, and they've been donating because we have so many great donations coming in. We're not self-funding this. I'm not self-funding this. I'm looking to the community, because if we can't get the community behind us, how's it going to happen? So in order for us to win this district, you need those three things: the map, the math, and the mobilization. The last thing I want to say on this to my volunteers: I've been so honored and blessed to have people, support me and work with me. Sometimes I worry that, I'm still standing up to those ideals that they believe in. I've got a guy on my team right now who's the doctor of theology. He's taken time off of his job in order to work for this campaign. Um, he's working with me to talk to religious communities and things of that nature. I have a small business owner and a veteran who's never voted before, ever. He wanted his first vote to be here. I'm honored to do that. I have a 17-year-old guy who's running our youth program. He's in high school. He's graduating this year, and he turns 18 on March 2nd. So he's actually saying that his first vote will be for me. I'm so honored. I have a friend of mine who's actually he's on the board of he's on the board of Capital Idea. He's working with my AI policies. He helped write the Texas Responsible AI Act. And so he said, how do we take this from the state of Texas and grow this bigger? So I've been honored with some great people who've blessed their time and their energy to me. And I know that that's a reason we're going to actually flip this seat, because it takes a lot. It doesn't just take me, it takes all of us. Again, my name is Justin Early. You can find more of me at votejustinearly.com. And what I'd like to say is vote early for Justin Early. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it very much. And our next and final set of opening remarks are from Stuart Whitlow. And Stuart is an attorney who is a fifth generation descendant of Central Texas. So welcome, Stuart. You have the microphone. Oh, got to get you unmuted. You are,
Get him spotlighted.
spotlighted. He is a Zoom user, the very last, I think. There we go. I think we still need to unmute you. I don't know if I'm hitting the right Zoom user, but I'm going to hit them both.
Still can't hear him.
Having a little trouble unmuting here. Stuart, do you see a button that allows you to unmute yourself? I just gave you permission to do that, I think.
How's that work?
That's better. Hear you now. That's great.
Okay,
So
great.
10 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I am Stuart Whitlow. I'm running for Congress in Texas District 31. I had the opportunity, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak tonight. I had the opportunity to speak to Indivisible 1431 at the showing of a movie called Bringing Down a Dictator, which was at the Flicks Brew House just back in 2025. So I'm glad to be back here again talking to folks. I was actually raised in Round Rock back when it was a small town of 2,500 people. I've seen it grow to the town of whatever it is now, 140,000, 150,000. I went to public schools in Round Rock all the way from first grade through 12th. My family, I am a fifth generation Central Texan. My relatives got here in 1880s in the Bartlett and Holland area. My great-grandfather actually started the first rural electric co-op in the nation back in 1936 under the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Rural Electrification Administration. He actually traveled to Washington, D.C. and got the thing started up, and I'm very proud of the fact that he was started the first one. And that Bartlett Electric Co-op still exists up there in Bartlett, Texas. So anyway, my parents came to Round Rock in 1950 as teachers. They spent their lives. They're no longer with us, but they spent their lives dedicated to community service. And so I learned a lot from watching them and what they did. My father was known as the poor man's banker because he spoke to a lot of people that other bankers wouldn't speak to about making loans, and made loans to a lot of people that other bankers would not make loans to. So I learned about making sure that you have a big heart and give into the community. My mother was a school teacher. my father went from being a teacher to the principal of Round Rock High School and then became a banker. My mother was a school teacher there in Round Rock, taught English. Really spent most of her time raising her three kids. And of course, so she was just a wonderful woman who also taught us good educational values, etc. So we went from my dad also, I will say my dad helped bring Westinghouse, Abbott Labs, McNeil Labs to Round Rock. He went to their headquarters, helped them bring their business to and their companies to the area. So I'm glad that he was able to do that and proud of the fact that he led that effort. I went from Round Rock to Southwestern University on a baseball scholarship. Had a great time at Southwestern. My parents, they really wanted me to be a medical doctor, and what they really didn't want me to do was study a lot of humanities and English literature and things like that. My brother had done that at Baylor, and he'd become a lot more open-minded. And my parents were great parents, but it was the time of the Vietnam War, the 70s, and they were concerned about the way the country was going. And so I finally woke up, though, at the end of my junior year. You had to make good grades, so I did that to try to get into medical school. But I woke up and said, I really would rather do some. This is not really what I'm interested in doing, as much as I admire medical doctors. So I talked to a theology professor. He said, I really think you need to go to seminary, to divinity school, to where you can really study what you want to study, explore your Christian faith further. So he helped me get into Vanderbilt Divinity School on a full scholarship there, which was just great, a great experience. Came back, got into to Austin, worked for a couple of years for the state, but then became enrolled in the joint program in law and public affairs. At the UT School of Law and the LBJ School of Public Affairs. I was actually selected to be the LBJ School intern for the congressman at that time. Went up to D.C., spent a summer in the legislative office up in D.C. So I've seen how a congressional office works and learned a lot about serving constituents and other things there. I became a lawyer. I've served over 35 years as a lawyer, most of that fighting for everyday people against big corporations and big insurance companies. I'm proud of what I've done as a lawyer. While I was serving as a lawyer, I started an organization called Capital Idea, which is a job training program in Austin. We started that in 1998. It's still existing today and still lifting people out of poverty. I'm really glad that I led the way in starting that organization. What they do is they pay the college tuition, like at ACC, Austin Community College, pay the child care expenses if the person has children, and then also guides them through the process. So people are coming out of there now with salaries of $62,000 or so. That's the starting point, with a career path and also benefits. So really happy with the way that program has gone on. And I wonder, it's already expanded into Williamson County. I helped do that. And then that's up in Temple. And we want to, frankly, when I become a congressman, one thing I'd really want to work on is expanding that program as far as I can throughout the United States, because I think it's just such a worthy deal. But it was near the end of my career. I was finishing up I was at the Texas Legal Services Center serving low-income people the last few years of my legal work. I realized that I could probably leave that job and work full-time on the political matters, because the dark clouds that started to gather on the horizon. Trump was there in 2023, looking like he might be coming back into office. John Carter, of course, the congressman who's been here for, God knows, 22 years or so, 23, is doing nothing to stop him, and was doing nothing to stop him, and still is not. He voted to decertify the vote for Biden in 2021. And so he kept on the MAGA path after that. And so I just realized possibly I could run against him and do our community a service. I talked to various political advisors. Many of them encouraged me. In fact, all of them encouraged me to run against John Carter. But really, I have in mind my two sons when I finally decided I was going to run. They're 21 and 23. Obviously, I started having kids a little later in life. But I simply want them to grow up in a full multiracial democracy and not a MAGA dictatorship. They've probably got 80 years left in their lives, and I would hate to see that that's the way they spend their lives. So that was really, at a bottom line, what got me to run. We are, of course, we're now facing some just horrible things with what ICE is doing, the horrible murders of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. All these things that have gone on have just been sickening and disgusting. We need to, ICE has become corrupt from top to bottom. We need to redo it and really start all over again with that organization so that they actually serve the public and do the job they're really supposed to do in terms of perhaps arresting criminals that have come here illegally, et cetera, but not taking in people who've never, ever committed a crime or had any trouble with the law. So other things, of course, that we're having trouble with are healthcare. We've had trouble expanding. We've not been able to expand the Obama subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies, which help people afford health care insurance. That's causing many people to lose their health care insurance. This is a real crisis that millions of people are facing. And so we need to get those Obamacare subsidies back in place. And that's, unfortunately, that'll probably still be there when I get to Congress. That's going to be one of the first things I work on, in addition to the ICE and Department of Homeland Security situation. We, of course, we have this affordability crisis, which continues to haunt us and haunt many people in our society. We need to get the rich to pay their fair share of taxes. Currently, of course, we have the wealthy that are many multimillionaires and billionaires are paying no taxes, and major corporations are paying no taxes. Once we can get those folks to pay their fair share, we can actually give the middle class a big tax break and help people find themselves in a more affordable position. So there are various things that we can do in that regard. I thank you all once again for letting me come here today. One of the things that we can really do is work together to talk to people that are not necessarily of our ilk. There are those out there now. There are still some Republicans out there who has their heads on straight and have not drunk the Kool-Aid that we can talk to and convince to join with us to save our democracy. And I think that's a very important factor. I ran into my mentor back when I first started practicing law, who's an incredible lawyer. In fact, still is. And we used to argue, though, some about the policies and stuff because he was much more conservative than I am. But I ran into him in a Starbucks a couple of months ago, and he said, "Whitlow, we're on the same side now. We have to get rid of this lawless person we have at the head of our government, and then we can, later we can always go back to arguing about policies. But now we need to get rid of him and be on the same side. And I think that's what we need to bring
10
independents
seconds.
together with Republicans as well as Democrats and make this happen where we can save the democracy and rebuild it even better than it ever was before." Thank you again for your time. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And speaking of questions, we're going to move right into that. Thank you all for voting on that. And so the leading questions are number 1, number 5, number 4, and then we have at least the last I looked, we have a tie between number 10 and number 2. So Pedro, I'm going to start out with you and going to ask you question number 1. Please describe your top 3 priorities if elected to office. Pedro?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. My top priorities as a candidate are number 1, healthcare, affordability, and immigration fairness. We must focus on all 3 because I think all 3 right now are really hurting a lot. Now, affordability is the ability to buy food, to afford to pay bills, the mortgage. Right now, it's a lot of people are struggling, and the Republican leader is not doing anything about it because he doesn't care. Recently, he came out with a plan to cut medication. My first thought was, so he has all this time in office, and he just now wanting to cut costs for the medication. He's pandering. He knows what's upcoming, which is a blue wave. The second one is healthcare. We must redo the HCA subsidies. We must. And if we can't, and it's not looking good right now in the Senate, then we have to come up with something that will be as important and vital and affordable to the people to go ahead and buy. For instance, so we did have a plan for that, but that plan includes excluding people with pre-existing conditions. Now, if you're young and healthy, it'll be great insurance for you and it'll be cheap. Other than that, no. So people like me who have pre-existing conditions, it's going to be very expensive for my premium to get. So what that's going to create is a whole bunch of debt fines. Now, immigration fairness. When I talked about it this morning with those men, let me be clear.
10 seconds.
I hate ICE. And I'm the only one in this race that's ever run from immigration when I worked in the field. I know the trauma. 10 seconds. What we need to do is restructure, retrain, and make sure they get the cameras on and the masks on.
Thank you, Pedro. Appreciate it very much. Same question to you, Justin. Top 3 priorities, please, sir.
Yeah, great. So sorry, 1 second. Whoop. Okay, apologize about that. I had oral surgery and I had a thing in my, I had to get rid of it. Anyway, so my top 3 priorities. So I built my campaign around 3 pillars, and that's security, dignity, and opportunity. But the priorities really fall within those as well. And so that is affordability, and affordability is housing, healthcare, groceries, real kitchen table issues that people need to talk about. And that's what brings Democrats, the people to decide where the Democrats are. The second is responsible technology and AI. As a cybersecurity expert, I know what these systems are doing. I know what they can do. And without real regulation, it's only going to help the 8 or so billionaires who own these systems and the systems that sell to those systems. And finally, the third one, and most importantly, is defending our democracy, because we can't talk about anything else until we talk about defending our democracy. The Congress today has yielded too much power to the executive. An executive order is not a law, and the way to fight an executive order is to write a law. And so we need to build coalitions across both sides of the aisle in order to create laws to settle down these executive orders in order to strengthen our democracy. On top of that, we could talk about, healthcare, because I believe women's healthcare is extremely important. I believe it's a human right, but I also believe in, women's healthcare without political interference. We can talk about immigration, because that's part of dignity. We are not treating people with dignity whenever these things happen. They're blowing through our, First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth Amendment rights. We can keep on going how many rights that they're actually going through. So retraining and all that stuff, while I think it's a great idea, it's not strong enough. The ICE has gotten enough weapons to be the size of the 18th largest military in the U.S. or in the world, and that is astounding for a organization that's supposed to be
10
on
seconds.
U.S. soil working with with Americans. The final point of this is thank you for your time. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justin. Stuart, what are your top 3 priorities, sir? As soon as the music theme's over, there we go.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me now?
We hear you now, Stuart.
Okay, great. The top priority is basically saving our democracy and making it better than it ever was before. Of course, in line with that, I need part of that is me winning this election so we can have more people in the House of Representatives retake the House. And I do think that we ran in 2024 on the grounds that we knew it was probably going to be a 2-cycle race because it takes a lot of time to establish your name identity and a good base of support. I think we've done that. We're moving forward. We're here to finish the job in 2026. So it's just a very important thing for us to take back the House, and that's one reason that's a very important factor. Secondly, besides democracy, which was the basic goal at the very beginning, we have, as I mentioned before, the ICE situation is just ridiculous. We have to tackle that with every effort we have. One way to do that, of course, is I like what they're doing in withholding the funding for ICE until the reforms are made to reform that agency. Let's hope that works. Undoubtedly, that job will still need to be done when I get to Congress. I want to be on the oversight committee to bring these people in to really find out what all that's happened, to make it clear to the American people, subpoena people, depose them through depositions, and really get to the bottom of this. And that will take that whole, the oversight committee will be very important also with respect to the affordability issues and exploring why the rich are not paying any taxes. How can we make them pay the fair share of taxes? The third issue that's a very important to me is the healthcare issue. We've got to resolve Obamacare subsidies, as I discussed before. Eventually, we got to work to where we have Medicare for all, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. What are your three top priorities, please?
Okay, it's so hard to choose only three. So the first thing that I would do I would want to try to restore funding to many of the programs that were cut by this administration, especially the ones that focus on housing and food insecurity. The second goal that I would have would be to let it be known that I was there to abolish ICE. I understand that that's not something you can just walk in and say, I would like ICE abolished, and then it gets abolished. But you can have a plan in mind and start taking those steps and plan for how each of those steps is gonna come out. But the end goal needs to be a force that is greatly reduced, that's much smaller and much more professional, that's designed only to track down truly violent criminals, and then the rest of your your border security people are at the actual borders, not roving throughout the country just detaining anybody that looks brown. And then the third thing that I would really want to focus on would be to pass legislation protecting reproductive freedom. Women are dying, and young girls are fearful for their future lives and their prospects. So, my own daughter left this state because she did not feel safe here, and I don't think she's going to come back. So those are my three.
Thank you very much, Claire. And that part of that is a good segue into our number 2 question, which Justin will lead us off on. It's on immigration. How would you reform ICE and Customs and Border Protection? Justin?
Yeah, that's a great question, very important. And the number one thing is, so while Congress controls the power of the purse, they need to work to getting the levels back to pre-2024 levels. Like I had stated earlier, that ICE is, the 18th largest military, and they've been utilizing those dollars in order to buy more weapons and, subject the United States to more surveillance capitalism, the surveillance economy. So the second thing I would do was put a stop to that, regardless of organization or government agency. Our First Amendment rights are very important. And the dragnets that they're doing in order to buy data and to figure out who people are, where they're at, is a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. And so we need to absolutely make stronger laws around these agencies who utilize the surveillance capitalism system. Third as well is utilize the activities of the Commerce and Energy and Commerce Committee in order to bring in these IT companies who are doing these things. You'll buy an app like Snapchat or Candy Crush, and they will sell that data of where you are, who you communicate with, and all those things to anybody who's willing to buy them. And right now, ICE is one of the top purchasers of this data. And so while I want to, do all the things I spoke about earlier, it also has to go back to the capitalism piece of it, because if companies weren't making money off of selling your data, then there would be no need for ICE to buy it.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Same question to you, Stuart. How would you reform ICE and CBP?
I think that there are various reforms that need to be made. First of all, starting at the top, I think we need to get rid of Kristi Noem. And also Kash Patel at the FBI. But mainly, we're talking here about Kristi Noem's area. She is obviously not qualified to have that position, and we need to have someone at the top of that agency that really knows how to handle that job and do it properly. We need to, as I said before, we need to condition any more funding to the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, which is a part of that, until the reforms are made with respect to the way these ICE agents are acting out in the field, which of course is just absurd and horrifying. We need to require no more masks, that they have badges identifying themselves. We need to require them to have judicial warrants before they can bust into someone's house. These are all factors that need to be, and there are many others, but those are some that need to be taken into account to make sure that we bring these people under control. We need to further hold these people accountable and take steps to hold them accountable. Of course, the Trump administration has said they're not going to be even looking into or prosecuting with respect to the Renee Good case, which that needs to change significantly. And furthermore, they're keeping the state of Minnesota from moving forward in prosecuting that case as well. We need to make that change and make sure that these people are held accountable for what they do. And of course, that's not only the Renee Good case, but also the Alex Preddy case. We need to, as I said before, I'll mention it again, we need to have the oversight committee, when we take over the House of Representatives, needs to be very active in exploring all these issues, bringing these matters before the American people, letting them see for a change exactly what has been happening transparently and what we need to do to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Claire, how would you reform ICE and CBP?
So, obviously, I've already said that I want to get rid of them, but that's going to be a multi-step process. I think the big thing to focus on is not just the reforms that the Democratic Party have been asking for, but also methods of enforcement. You can say, oh, you can't, no more wearing a mask, but what happens then if they refuse to take the mask off? Because as we've seen, this administration is telling its agents, do what you want. Who cares what the law says? So, for example, it would be something along the lines of like, if an agent refuses to take off his mask and identify himself, then whoever it is that he's detained is immediately released, or whatever. Just kind of like when you're when you seize evidence illegally, you can have that evidence thrown out in court, and then your whole case goes to pot. So to me, I think the most important thing is to try to get enforcement and have actual consequences when they violate those things. It's it's going to be difficult. Like, I mean, if you look at what's happening right now, the Democrats are asking for incredibly reasonable things, and the Republicans are refusing to even engage on this. So it's going to be, I don't really know what's going to happen between now and when we are in Congress.
10
Who
seconds.
knows? But yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Pedro, over to you. How would you reform ICE and CBP?
Asked on mute.
First of all, one of the things I've advocated before wherever I go is we need to make sure that they're defunded. Currently, the Senate's trying to make a deal with the Republicans to do exactly that, to make sure that they don't get the $75 million that was appropriated in the bill. Also, what we need to do is restructure. We got to know where it's going. You got to get it away from the DHS and maybe put it in people's DOJ. Right now, that's not really going to matter, but at least it'll be somewhere where when the Democrat and the Democratic president comes in, we can take charge. Got to hold them accountable. They're doing ugly, nasty, atrocious things to Americans and immigrants in this country. That's not what we're built to do. Third thing I would do is retrain. Look, this is what I give an example of. When I was in the Marines, you really think that I was ready to defend this country after 3 weeks of training? No, I was not. I didn't know the appropriate military tactics or how to shoot a rifle with windage and everything. So these guys are getting maybe 3 or 4 weeks training and they're put out on the streets. Another thing, we need to evaluate this psychologically. Put an MPPI, which is Minnesota Personality Inventory. Then basically vet out a lot of those people who are not mentally ready or have the ability to go out there and push things off what they're trying to do, what they are. So, okay, the FBI uses it. Let's do that. You got to weed these folks out. You have to. You really think that the man who shot Miss Good was ready to be out in the street after what happened to him almost a year previous? We almost got run over. Well, the next time a car comes
10
at
seconds.
do exactly what he did: pull a gun, pull the trigger, and then ask questions later.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next question, which will be on healthcare. And Stuart, you are going to start us off. The question is, affordability of healthcare is a major concern across the state. ACA subsidies are reduced, Medicaid cutbacks on the way, rural hospitals closing, fewer doctors are moving to Texas from within and outside the USA. What would you do to reduce the cost of healthcare?
Thank you for the question. First of all, as I mentioned, one of the biggest immediate problems is extending those subsidies for Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, insurance. Those are, without those in place, many millions of people are having their health care insurance rise very much, so that many of them probably won't even be able to afford health insurance or have very poor health insurance policies. Those subsidies need to be passed as soon as possible. That if that's something that's still going on when I'm there, that's something I will put at the top of my agenda. We have, yes, the entire big ugly bill of this past summer needs to be repealed, sent back, so that we refund that money to Medicaid, which is being taken away, and end those tax cuts that we have given to, not we, but what the Trump administration and MAGA Republicans have given to very wealthy individuals and in corporations. Those need to be reversed, and with that money put back into Medicaid, and also there were also Medicare cuts that were involved there. We need to eventually codify Roe v. Wade. Since it's been overturned, we need to go back. Of course, that's going to take getting the majorities in the Senate and the House and having a president that will sign that bill, but that needs to be done as soon as possible. And I do think that we are moving in the right direction in terms of our elections. We've had some incredible victories lately with the Tyler Remmett victory in Tarrant County, where we won. He was able to turn that 31% the other way. So that shows I have great optimism based upon that we eventually will be able to do these things that we're talking about in terms of healthcare and all the other
10
issues.
seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Claire, same question for you. What would you do to reduce the cost of healthcare? Unmute.
Unmute.
Yep.
So I was going to say, it's hard. It's, of course, that's a tough one to do in 2 minutes, but the the eventual goal in my mind would be to move towards Medicare for all. So any steps that I took would have that in mind. I realize that that's not something that's going to happen immediately. So the first priority, as everyone else has already pointed out, is we got to reverse those cuts to the ACA tax credits. That's causing the most immediate amount of harm to the most amount of people. The second thing that I think is important is to try to find a way to help people in states that have opted out of expanding Medicare. And I've seen a couple interesting proposals. I believe one was actually filed by Lloyd Doggett maybe last session to try to find a way that local governments could maybe use federal funds to help improve the healthcare plans for their residents. And then the third one would just be a gradually lowering of the age of eligibility for Medicare as a way of kind of easing us into, having a single payer health system, or even a single payer with, private option. But that's where I'd like to see us go. And that's how I think we could get there.
Thank you very much, Claire. We'll ask you, Pedro, how you would reduce healthcare costs, please.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, good. first of all, again, like everybody else, we've got to do is make sure that we reauthorize the ACA. That's going to help. And Claire had an idea, but mine is to expand the age of Medicaid. I've worked with folks on Medicaid and Medicare, and Medicaid is so much better. Medicare takes a lot of money from folks that can't afford it. Medicaid, it's free. You pay nothing until when you go see a doctor. They're not paying anything, so it's saving a whole lot of money. Where currently Medicare is going up, premiums are going up, and deductibles are going up. Also, what we may do to help Medicare and Medicaid patients to see more doctors is give them a better reimbursement. Right now, a lot of doctors aren't taking it because the reimbursement rate is nothing compared to what they charge. For instance, as a mental health therapist, I could charge $120 an hour for seeing a patient, but my Medicare or Medicaid rate can be $25. So basically, I've lost a lot of money. Now, they give a lot of deductions to professional gamblers where they can actually deduct almost 90% of their losses. Why can't we do the same thing with physicians so they can see more patients? Because right now, I'm one of the few therapists that see people in West Texas, and that's a shame. I get it why, but I take it because I'm there to help. So let's go ahead and lower the age for Medicare, but also make the age appropriate, so a higher age range for Medicaid, because again, that is better than Medicare.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Justin, over to you. How would you improve or how would you reduce healthcare costs?
I think reducing healthcare costs improves healthcare as well, but we'll get to that in a second. I agree with everybody else here. The immediate bleed is the ACA and restore those funds. But I think we need to also take a step back and realize that the ACA was not an end all be all, and beating the drum every day about the ACA does not get us towards a Medicare for all or where we need to go. Because the problem is that we have health insurance companies in the public option. And because health insurance companies are in the public option, they can put restrictions and eligibility requirements about being in there. So the number one thing is to, as we have all said here, is reduce the age for Medicare and the eligibility for Medicaid, or the reduce the age for Medicaid and the eligibility for Medicare. Doing that, we can make sure that everyone is eligible. We can do that, make sure there's no employer requirements, there's no income restrictions, and that it covers essential health benefits. The reason why we can do this, or we should do this, is because if we think of health insurance or healthcare coverage as a utility, not a premium option, then people can still have a public or a private option to purchase the Blue Cross Blue Shields of America or whatever else they want to go towards for a more premium option. Other countries around the world do this. This is nothing new. The problem is we are stuck in this mentality that insurance companies have to save us. That's where the ACA makes their most on it from the public option, is they then dictate how much money goes through there and how much care you get. If we actually brought care back to being a utility and we go towards Medicare for all immediately, then we can actually talk about what premium options out there for people to do. So those are things that I would do specifically. I would expand the current programs that we do have, as long as they don't have insurance companies in the public option.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Justin. Okay, and now we're going to switch to our fourth question. We have a tie, and I'm going to make the dreaded executive decision to pick the one on campaign finance. And Claire, you're back up number one again. So the question is, will you refuse money from the very corporate PACs and special interest groups that advance Trump's second term agenda? This includes AI companies, crypto markets, corporate landlords, big tech, big agriculture, big pharma, big insurance, fossil fuels, AI PAC, Wall Street, and corporate America.
Yes. Yes, I will. I mean, of course, it's easy for me to sit here and say this now. Those people are not banging down my door with big giant checks in hand, but I intend to keep that. I do not want to take corporate PACs money. It's part of the problem, and I would be incredibly hypocritical if I did that while criticizing current government members for doing it. So yeah, I would take that out. I would eventually like to see publicly financed elections. That's a ways down the line, but we shouldn't have, we we should all go in on with a level playing field and not being bought and paid for by secret companies.
Thank you, Claire. Pedro, what's your stance on the big corporate PACs and special interest groups?
I won't take that money.
Okay.
I was talking to someone once about I had an acquaintance who had part of the ideal school system, and I was going to ask maybe for some donations. I thought it over and I said no, because there's going to be strings attached there. Not going to do it. I've decided that I will grassroots effort, $1, $2 here. It all adds up. And the only one that I'm accountable to is the people. Number one. And that's exactly what I want to be accountable to, is the people. I don't want an oil company or anyone else telling me this is what they want. Then I'm indebted to them, not going to do it. Now, can we get anything else in order? Yes, we can get put back in the United Citizens United. It was an atrocious decision by the Supreme Court. It just opened the floodgate. You can also ask for public private airways to air free commercials for us. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but at least we can put a foundation down to see if it can happen, because I think it will be happening in the future, because Democrats are going to take over, and that's one of the things we need to push for.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Justin, what's your take on all these big money donors?
Yeah, big money donors, I think, just like Pedro and Claire said, that they make you beholden to other people other than the people. If you had a public option where it was, publicly funded elections, then you're beholden to the public. If you're taking, corporate PAC money or dark money, then you don't know who you're beholden to. I work for Dell Technologies, and Dell has a Dell PAC, and they ask the employees to submit to the Dell PAC, and then they'll put money towards the incumbents in the area. And when Jasmine Crockett spoke about the money she received from the Goldman Sachs PAC, she really pointed towards it was the employees there, and the employees and leadership do choose where that PAC money goes. And so while the employees are putting it through a PAC, I still don't want to take that money. I would rather people donate on their own. I'd rather it all be up in front and in the open. And it takes all of us, right? Because if it takes, 10 corporations giving $5,000, I got 50 grand. But if I can get, 500 people giving $100, I've got the same thing. And so I would rather have money from the individuals and the people, because those are when they show they really care about the campaign. If a corporation pays money towards it, it shows what they care about with their money as well. So I will refuse corporate PAC money or dark money.
Thank you, Justin. Stuart?
Yes, I likewise will refuse money from any of those groups you mentioned. I think that obviously it makes you beholden to them rather than to the people of the country. We're there to represent the people. We're not there to represent particular corporations or particular PACs or particular dark money groups, etc. Furthermore, I think we need to have a Supreme Court that will take a stand on this, other than what they decided in Citizens United, as Pedro mentioned. I am in favor of expanding the Supreme Court, doing whatever is necessary to make sure that we have a Supreme Court which is actually responsive to the people, which seeks justice and fairness, and making our laws, and rather than opening the floodgates for dark money like they did in Citizens United, and of course a number of other decisions they've made which have been very, very unfortunate, and in fact very harmful to our country. So no, I will not take money from those folks. I'm accepting only individual contributions from real people, and that pretty well says it right there.
Thank you very much, Stuart. If it's okay with you, I'd like to squeeze in one more question. This would be on taxation, the other tie for number 4. And the question will be, will you support making the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes? Should be pretty easy. Pedro, we'll start with you, sir.
Well, absolutely. They need to pay their fair share. What happened with this big ugly bill is that they sold you a bill of goods. They told the middle class and the working poor they were going to get a more bigger refund at the end of the year. Not true. It may be very little, but to them it may seem a lot. Now, the folks who are really going to get the big refund or the tax break are the rich. We need not to do that. this country was built on the backs of the folks, the working poor and the middle class. It's shrinking more and more. And you know what happens when that happens? Revolution. We don't need that. Civil war. We don't need that. We need to make sure that people pay their fair share. And I promise, when elected, I will make sure to get some good tax plan that will help the middle class and working poor and the rich pay their share.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Yeah, so Justin, what's your take on that? Making them pay their fair share.
Repeat the question one more time, please.
Yeah, sure. Will you support making the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes?
No, because they don't pay their fair share. They think they're paying their fair share today. They need to pay what they owe. And they are so behind on paying what they owe. I think anybody saying their fair share is playing to the billionaires themselves. If they believe they were paying their fair share, they wouldn't be angry, upset with things were being, raised up. They're making more money, yet they're paying less taxes. Yet they're thinking they're paying their fair share. I think Democrats should stop saying that. It is not fair at all. Everything that you just said after that, Pedro, is not fair to the middle class. So don't ask the billionaires for their permission to tax them. That's what asking their fair share means. So apologize for being a little adamant on this point. We should really stick with, or I'm going to stick with, I'm going to make them pay what they owe. Jeff Bezos, all these people, Amazon, Elon Musk with his, Starlink satellites, they're polluting the air, they're polluting the water, they're driving the roads, and we as middle class taxpayers have to pay those things. If they were paying what they owe, they would have to put more into those same systems that they're making money off of. If we're asking them to pay their fair share, that's what we're doing today. And they already think they're paying their fair share. So the answer is no, I will not ask them to pay their fair share. I will demand they pay what they owe.
Thank you very much, Justin. Stuart, I hate to ask the question now, but will you support making the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes?
Well, many of the wealthy, including many multimillionaires and billionaires, as well as many huge corporations, are paying zero at the current time. And that is because there are all kind of exceptions to the tax bills and tax laws are riddled with exceptions that they can use to reduce their taxes to zero by hiring, unfortunately, I'll admit it, by hiring lawyers who are very skilled at working these tax situations. But we need to decide, we get to Congress, when I get to Congress and join with the others, we need to decide then what is exactly the level that they should be paying. And it should be an amount which takes into account the fact that they've gotten away without paying a dime for years, many of them, and make sure that they recover from that and also pay an amount which is equal to what they're capable of paying. So I'm all for that. I think that I'll be more than happy to look at any bills, tax bills, and I would like to be on the Ways and Means Committee in the House to determine what those bills should say. I've gotten pretty good over the years at reading these legal documents and finding loopholes and cutting them out, and also making sure that there aren't loopholes. So that's how I would approach that.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And Claire, what's your perspective on making the wealthy pay their fair share?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had some new brilliant comment to add, but I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. Like everything that these guys said is incredibly accurate. Um, we, I believe in living in a society where when you have more, you give more, because you didn't get that stuff on your own. You got it from the people who make less than you. Those are the people that enabled you to become a billionaire. And so, I mean, maybe that's socialism, but whatever. YOLO, that's what I believe.
Okay, thank you, Claire, and thank you for all your participation and logging on, you four candidates. It's been an honor to have hosted you this evening, and to those of you who are out there listening to these great comments, please show them all some love. Give them all those emojis and hearts and clap hands and all that stuff. Please show them that. And yes, there you go. And in the meantime, I just have a couple of closing remarks here. We will get these slides, such as they are, out to all of you. Here's a slide, and you should be able to see this. with all the candidates' websites for you. You can take a screenshot if you want, or again, we'll be sending this out pretty shortly. Couple quick announcements. We until about 3-4 hours ago, we had a check-in with the candidates for Congressional District 10 on this coming Thursday, day after tomorrow. However, a bunch of conflicts, you know how it is. So we've had to reschedule this for February 26th. So if you're interested in Congressional District 10 or Senate District 5, we will be doing that at 6:30 Thursday, February 26th. But in the nearer term, even nearer term future, a week from tonight, we will be hosting several candidates for House District 50. So that's a very competitive race. As you know, James Tallarico holds that seat right now. So someone has big shoes to fill when they're elected. And that's about all we have here. So I would take this opportunity to once again thank our candidates, thank everyone who participated. I hope to have a cup of coffee with all of you at some point, and have a great evening. And we'll see you next time. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Have a great
Thank
night.
everybody.
Thank you.